This is the 6th this year. After today's meeting, there will be another meeting of Federal Executive Council on Wednesday to continue to look at memos presented by ministers for clearance. It is the desire of Mr. President to ensure that all policy documents are being looked at and processed so that there will be timely execution of projects. Indeed, because some of them, for example, the Honorable Minister of Works that, your friend has a lot of memos all the time to present to you. When it is deep into the rainy season, it becomes more difficult for contractors to mobilize. And so Mr. President has directed that all memos that need to be looked at by the Federal Executive Council are done to enable the Honorable Minister of Works to get these contractors to site so that they can continue the execution of their projects.
Nigeria is very fortunate to have in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu a leader who is bold, who is courageous, whose steady hand, born out of experience, is navigating Nigeria through very difficult times, and that over time we're beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel, and the recognition that his administration is getting from multiple angles, I think is beginning to be uncontestable. So the narrative that is building, uncomfortable as it may be for some, I think is a positive one. In that light, we appreciate Time's recognition for what the President has been able to do in health, and all of us in his team are very privileged to serve in that capacity, including ourselves specifically in the health sector. Today, the Federal Executive Council considered two elements that were related to health specifically, among other things, as my colleague, the Minister of Information, laid out. The first is in line with the direction of the President for Nigerians to have lowered cost of drugs and wider access to essential medicines, quality access. This has been work that we have been undertaking for many months. In fact, for almost a year and a half, government has been trying different ways to reduce the cost, because we know that Nigerians were hurting because of rising cost of pharmaceuticals. It's not limited to Nigeria, as you may be aware. Even countries as far as the United States are placing executive orders to reduce the cost of pharmaceuticals. But in line with the presidential initiative to unlock the healthcare value chain and the executive order which Mr. President signed in June 2024, that executive order provided incentives for local manufacturing by taking away tariffs for import of raw materials so that we can encourage our local manufacturers. There's an element of that executive order which is to allow us to shape the market by aggregating the demand in the Nigerian health space and channel that demand to encourage our local suppliers. Today, Federal Executive Council approved Medipool. It's a group purchasing organization for competitive pricing and to be a supplier of essential medicine and healthcare products across Nigeria that are funded through the federal government's intervention, the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, but also potentially outside that through federal tertiary hospitals, so that as a buyer, we can negotiate lower prices. So it's using the monopsony power of government as a large buyer of those commodities, negotiate lower prices, and then channel those commodities. And the scope includes, but it's not limited to, procurement planning, distribution, monitoring, supply chain logistics management, quality assurance, regulatory compliance, as well as ensuring that local manufacturers are supported and import substitution, the financial management and payment systems, as well as capacity building and training and contingency planning to ensure steady availability of essential drugs that are the quality that Nigerians can benefit and at a lower cost through a public-private partnership. And that vehicle, Medipool, has been vetted through the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission, has been benchmarked with other global group purchasing organizations, including Kenya, South Africa, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, and many other countries. And we believe that this is a major intervention that will shape the domestic market so that the demand for pharmaceuticals, quality pharmaceuticals, can be channeled in a way that lowers cost and also improves quality and stimulates local manufacturing. That is Medipool. We think this is a very major intervention. The second item was the award of contract for the procurement and installation of cardiac catheterization machine by the Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital in Sokoto in the amount of 2.3 billion naira, essentially to help the University Teaching Hospital provide diagnosis and treatment services for heart and blood vessel problems, heart attack, irregular heartbeats. Those are very complicated, very serious medical issues. The University Hospital in Sokoto will now have this capability, which will serve the population in Sokoto State, the northwest geopolitical zone of our country, and indeed the country. It will save lives, but also contribute towards reversing outbound medical tourism, because Nigerians can be able to access services which hitherto they were not able to. And that is an important step, one more among several other interventions that federal government has been supporting to strengthen the federal teaching hospitals, to train and to provide quality service as part of the transformation of our health sector under the leadership of His Excellency, Mr. President. So thank you.
Projects that we inherited from the past administration, and in line with the Federal Executive Council, we have faced these projects, and I'll just briefly mention them. You have the the Pada Kukagi Road in Kwara State. It was awarded in 2022, and we have rescoped it for the first phase for 8.05 billion. So it's an ongoing project we inherited. The same thing, you have the dualization of Akure Eta, Obulu, Iju, Ado Ekiti border, Kere. This was awarded in 2023 in March, and that was a total project cost of 27 billion. But we have faced it to meet up with the funding challenges, and we have taken out 12.5 kilometers, and is awarded to Aritech Nigeria Limited for 12 months in the total sum of 27.27 billion. We have the new project that was awarded, and that's 7.3 single carriageway, and then 3.3 kilometer dual carriageway in Lagos, awarded in the sum of 15.43 billion in favor of Mrs. Cell True Construction Limited. Then we have the contract for East-West Road, and this is Section 2. Section 1 is being completed under the present administration and is due for commissioning, but this is Section 2. And let me say that this project was inherited in 2009. It was awarded for 44.83 billion, but reviewed in 2014, for a contract sum of 93.412. Our administration reviewed it because of the floating of the naira and the petroleum subsidy removal in 2024 for 144.75 billion. But during construction, we realized that a number of the stations has been washed away due to the construction of the initial routes as inherited was done below the flood level. So today, FEC approved additional 30 billion, bringing the contract sum to 175.077 billion. And they also have the Potskum Fika Bajoda Gombe Road in Yobe and Gombe State, awarded in 2020 for 59.75 billion for a total length of 189 kilometers. Only 10% has been achieved so far, And so we decided to phase it to complete 6.5 kilometers plus additional 5 kilometers that was already done, and for a total contract sum of 16.5 billion. And then you have Obanewi awarded in 2022 for 24.202 billion and completed 7 kilometers. So we have awarded, rescoped, and reviewed the project to 9.9 billion for them to complete a total of 12 kilometers. We also have a project in Ayegun Oloye Road in Ibadan on Oye State. It was initially awarded to be done on reinforced concrete, but the place is very busy, and because reinforced concrete pavement went down, we take 28 days to mature before people can step on it. So we looked at it, and it's going to be very difficult for the people within that location. So we had to change it to asphalt and reduce the cost from 12.793 billion to from 12.833 billion to 12.793 in favor of Mrs. Zayon Construction Nigeria Limited. That is what we have. And then we have presented 260 palliative projects, totaling 208 billion to FEC for Mr. President to direct on the approval. And we also provided 19 total of 19 mega projects completed within the geopolitical zone. Some inherited, some new projects. You can have some of them like the Kano Kasena, 83 kilometers inherited phase 1, and the phase 2 is Kano Kasena, that was 43 kilometers done by CCCC, is completed. You go to northeast, you can have Shandam Bridge, 3 span completed. You go to Adamawa, you have the Yakasi Bridge completed. You go to south-south, you have the East-West Road Section 1. We inherited it and completed it. It's ready for commissioning. Section 2 is ongoing. And you also have the famous East-West Road, which is 15 kilometers dualized. And what we've done is to complete one carriageway on reinforced concrete pavement, and it's ready for commissioning. You come to southeast, you see the Artisan Bridge in Enugu State is completed. You go to Ebonyi, see the Apuaha Bridge in Ebonyi State completed. Time will fail me to mention all that we say, but in southwest, you have the Dangote Deep Sea Port, completed Section 1 on reinforced concrete, pavement. We have a couple of rehabilitation under the bridges of Kata and Tom Mainland Bridge, completed also. Lagos Ibadan, phase 2 section, phase 1 section 2 is also going to be ready in the next 7 days, for this day. So time will fail me to mention all the 19 projects that are there. But we have also, manifested another 33 projects that will be ready by December 2025, that will be ready for commissioning. And what we have recommended to FEC is that the 260 projects that Nigeria Union of Journalists, Road Transport Workers, Petroleum Transport Workers, and so on and so forth should be co-opted with the National Assembly to move around the geopolitical zone and get these projects commissioned, totaling 208 billion. This is very important. FEC also was drawn the attention of the destruction of parapets, of bridges, the New Jersey, where people are excavating, this, iron and destroying the concrete infrastructure, and also, mining of sand within the major bridges of this country. And so the FEC directed that we should sound a note of warning, because FEC had, before now approved that nobody should touch anything like mining, 10 kilometer radius from any of the bridges in the country. So we are to, put up that advertisement and, to let the public know. There are 3 major interventions or mega projects that were awarded that we presented to FEC. You have the Shagamu Tore. It's been awarded to CBC. but the funding is a challenge, and it's a major, economic corridor. In fact, the 7 taxi route is going to empty on that route. The one that is done by Lagos State government is emptying that road. So it's also an economic evacuation corridor for the deep sea port and everyone within the 17 southern states that are, on that road. So we presented it for funding intervention. We also presented the Ibadan Ife, awarded by the past administration, of course, to COPEC. And of course, the Elisha Akure Benin, awarded to High Tech in 2023. We also presented the 3 and the appeal for funding intervention, by Mr. President, and he directed we should send it to the Minister of Finance. Finally, there were other projects that are very important. Some of you that ply Lagos, you see that we have 7 bridges on Lagos Ibadan route. That you have 7 bridges that vehicles have knocked the beams, which means that the overpass, we have closed down some of the overpass. And so this is very, very dangerous. And so we made it clear that we need intervention in terms of that. We have a Turkey, Ikorodu route, we need intervention. We have Bauchi Jigawa route, we need intervention. This was completed before, but during the last 2024 flood, it destroyed about 4 sections. So they needed bridges to raise such sections above the flood level. We have one in my state, which is Akwa. The existing bridge has been almost given away, and so there is intervention to bypass that bridge. This is very important. We have the to Calabar route. There are 3 contracts on that route, but there is a road within our the E2 power plant. I'm sure it will interest the Minister of Power, where you cannot pass. So we have drafted High Tech on intervention program to come over there, and people spend 7 hours between Cross River and Akwa Ibom, for a journey that should not take more than 2 hours. We experienced it the last time, so we have done that for them to come and intervene. Of course, we have Maraba Kefi, because the fund we have is doing only 1 carriageway, and the other carriageway we have to put it in a motorable condition. So, Mr. President directed that we should also direct this request, which is about 88 billion intervention, to the Minister of Finance. That's, I'm sure that I've covered everything, and I took more than 1 minute.
On the aggregate, you have taken more minutes than any minister briefing the press. Well done, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, you may now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to reiterate what my 2 colleagues said earlier on, where they commended the vision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. From the very beginning, he wanted to have an approach to governance that would give an economic expansion using some sort of a diversification process. And that's what he did by identifying this ministry, the Ministry of Art, Culture, and Creative Economy, now the Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy. The first of its kind has never been done before in the history of Nigeria, where it's a standalone ministry that will be able to really interrogate and have a deep dive into all the potential abound within this industry. So what we started to do from the beginning in terms of looking at how we can really have this economic expansion is to think outside the box. How can we, as a ministry, contribute to the expansion of Nigeria through what we already have? And one of the FEC memo that we brought to Council today was for the approval of monetization of tangible and intangible asset in the creative and tourism sectors by our ministry together with the the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. As we all know, Nigeria is extremely blessed, and is not blessed only within the creative and cultural industry, but also within the tourism industry. We have a lot of assets to our name. So we're looking at how we can use that to monetize it, and by monetizing it and securitizing it, we can also bring this value back into the communities, into the country, and into the economy as one. So this memo was to monetize Nigeria's tangible and intangible assets in both the creative, cultural, and the tourism industry. And it really is about creating a new revenue stream, one that has never been done before, but using what we already have as a nation. And of course, growing the economy. Our ministry has committed to contributing and growing the economy by $100 billion by 2030. And we hope to do that by putting up all the modalities in place that will allow the industry to grow organically on its own. And we also want to address unemployment, create jobs. We are going to create at least 2 million jobs by 2027 within this industry. And some of our tangible assets that we have signed within the MOU with MOFI is the museum collections and our artifacts, our historical monuments and landmarks, and our federally owned arts and paintings. Some of the intangible assets are traditional knowledge, our languages, our indigenous textiles, such as the adire, the culinary heritage, such as Ijebu Gari, and of course, cultural landscapes and landmarks such as Lagos, Ikogosi, Obudu, Mambila, so many other too numerous to mention. So the strategy for this monetization is going to take 4 separate processes. The first is for us to access the assets that we already have under our ministry, that is under all of our agencies. We've already finished that specific process. Now it is for us and MOFI to sit down to now access and monetize them. So this is a really exciting time, I think, for Nigeria. It is an exciting time for Nigerian identity, for our traditions, for our culture. It is a time whereby we already use what we have to see how we can really expand and how we can give back to the community in a way that does not put more pressure on our budgetary, already economically. I think the world is going through some level of challenge. And of course, with the tariffs that are coming out from America, as a nation, we have to know what we will do as a standalone nation to increase our revenue on our own. And I think this is one of the ways we're going to do it. And it also is going to add to national pride, because things that we already have, the content, the talent, the creativity, the assets that we have that the whole world is interested in. Now what we are doing is to put a framework, a strategy in place that will allow us to really get the worth and the value from it. So this was approved today, and it's a very exciting time, I think, not only for the ministry, but for the nation as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for that update. Let me bring in the Honourable Minister of Labour and Employment. He had a memo on the new revised national policy on employment. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister of Information, and that's why I'm coming closer to you so that you will present me so that I will go as quickly as my memo is just one memo, but it's a very important memo to the Labour family in general. This memo has to do with the approval of the Federal Executive Council on our national policy for employment. The policy is usually revised after every 4 or 5 years. And I think now for about 6 years, going forward, we have been able to today get the approval of the Federal Executive Council to implement it and to produce it and to sell it to our stakeholders. I believe our stakeholders will be very happy today to hear that this national policy on employment has been approved by the Federal Executive Council. It is usually because of this long span of time and considering the reality on the ground, the ministry decided to initiate the review of this national policy on employment so as to show the need to develop new strategies which will address challenges of unemployment and underemployment and poverty, while creating economic opportunities for productive and remunerative employment of Nigerians. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be going to International Labour Organization meeting in Geneva, and we'll be very proud to tell our colleagues from other parts of the world that we have this month been able to review and approve the national employment policy for our dear country. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The approval of the Federal Executive Council as regards the Group Life Assurance Scheme. This scheme underscores the importance that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR's administration, has placed welfare of staff, specifically the welfare of the federal public servant. The Group Life Assurance Scheme is a scheme whereby the federal government has taken out a life policy on each public servant. And this means that if the unfortunate incident of death occurs, the deceased public servant's next of kin stands to have a benefit to help the family, cushion the family at that time of loss. This year, the Group Life Assurance Scheme covers key government officials comprising Mr. President, the Vice President, the Chief of Staff, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Honorable Ministers, the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Permanent Secretaries and staff of federal government ministries and Treasury-funded agencies, that is the extra-ministerial departments and agencies as well. The scheme also covers the paramilitary agencies such as Nigerian Immigration Service, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigeria Correctional Service, the Federal Fire Service, Federal Road Safety Corps, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and the Office of the National Security Advisor. The Group Life Assurance Scheme is an annual one, and today's approval was for the 2025-2026 policy year. The policy would commence from the date of payment of premium to underwriters in line with the no premium, no cover policy. I'd just like to quickly take you through the actual approval for today. The approval for today was for the appointment of 17 insurance underwriters for the Group Life Assurance cover and for the year 2025-2026, as I had earlier mentioned. And the premium is paid to the insurance companies for the duration of 12 months. So this policy will expire next year. I'd just like to say that in as much as this policy has existed throughout this administration and even previous administrations, we find that not too many people know about the policy. And so we have, from my office, even planned to carry out a sensitization, which will be coming up very soon. But I'm so happy to be given the opportunity today to talk about this policy And I ask that please, it would be very good to give this wide coverage, because this policy affects every public servant, including most of you seated here. So on this note, I'd like to thank you and to say that this administration has placed welfare of the public servant very highly, so that no deceased public officer's family should be left without succor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, and it's gladdening to know that even the ministers are covered under this policy. Thank you very much for that. Let me now give the microphone to my brother, the Honorable Minister of Power. The Honorable Minister of Power.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation. Good afternoon, everyone. In line with the present administration resolve to continue to provide improvements in the supply, in the generation, transmission, and distribution of reliable electricity to our households, to our businesses, to our institutions, and to our industries, the Federal Executive Council, at its meeting this afternoon, approved 3 papers presented by the Ministry of Power. The first approval granted the Ministry of Power was in respect of the approval of the replacement of the preferred bidder for 6 megawatt Ikere Gorge Dam, Ikere Gorge hydropower plant concession that was approved in 2019 by the reserved bidder, Messrs. Quent Power Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. If I may take you back, you will remember that the council at its meeting of Wednesday, 27th March 2019, actually approved the concession of 5 small and medium hydropower plants for private sector development under public-private partnership arrangements. However, the preferred bidder for the concession of the 6 megawatts Ikere Gorge hydropower plant, Messrs. Power Control and Appliances Limited, failed to accept the offer within the stipulated time frame. And for 5 years running, nothing has happened with respect to this hydropower plant. And the contract was deemed to have lapsed or expired. So the reserved bidder is now being recommended to replace the preferred bidder. So the new preferred bidder is now Messrs. Quent Power Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. And we have carried out due diligence on this company, and we have also discussed with their technical partner, and we have realized that they have all it takes to ensure that this hydropower plant in Ikere, Isheyin, Okeogun, part of Oyo State, is revamped and even improved to 15 to 20 megawatts. This approval also includes the payment of a one-time concessional fee of about 291.6 million naira and an annual concession fee of 66.3 million naira. Apart from increasing the revenue to government, this will also improve power supply to Okeogun part of Oyo State, whereby we believe that the agricultural industry of that axis will also improve, as well as attracting more businesses into the area. So we got the approval for that. And the other remaining concession are being reviewed to ensure that they commence full operation. That's the first approval. The second approval we also got was the construction, for the award of contract for the construction and installation of a 2x60 MVA and 132 by 33 kV substation in Ibadan, Oyo State, in favor of Mrs. Anytime Global Limited in the sum of $18.3 million and 9.9 billion naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT, with a completion period of 24 months. This also includes consultancy services for the construction and installation of 2x60 MVA and 132 by 33 kV substation in Ibadan, Oyo State, in favor of Mrs. Team Spirit Consult Limited in the sum of $1.4 million and 589 million naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT, and with a completion period of 24 months. This will ensure that power supply is strengthened, and we also secure the national grid for effective power wheeling and improved service delivery for strategic investments that will address the power supply challenges, support economic development, and improve the quality of life for the residents. The power infrastructure in Ibadan is overburdened, leading to frequent outages and voltage fluctuations. The project aligns with the renewed hope agenda of enhancing power infrastructure and promoting sustainable energy solutions. The location of this project is actually around the Ladupon, Ejioku, Igbolerin axis of Lagelu local government that will boost power supply to Iwo Road, Monoton, and Yanof and the likes. So, and we believe that this is in addition to the revamping of the Ayede 330 kV substation, which is almost 60 years old, and the proposed new Ashijure 330 kV substation under the presidential power initiatives that we all know as a Siemens project. This will actually boost power supply for the revamping of industries around Ibadan, for supply of power to social and educational institutions, including institutions in Oyo State, as well as our businesses and offices. That is the second approval. So the last approval was actually the approval for procurement of 3 operational vehicles for FGN Power Company, which is the special purpose vehicle that actually operates and implements the presidential power initiatives that we know as a Siemens project. So those are the 3 approvals obtained from Federal Executive Council this afternoon by the Federal Ministry of Power. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister of Industries on is not a memo, so I will give the floor to the Honorable Minister of Aviation, after which the Minister of State Industry will now take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We brought a couple of memos today, presented them to Council, and Council graciously approved our memos. The first one was for the upgrade and rehabilitation of Terminal B at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. I'm sure you know the Terminal B there, the domestic wing, where most of the facilities are actually very old and obsolete. The chillers are not at their best. Most of them have outlived their lifespan. And the carousels and a couple of other infrastructure at that terminal. So we plan to upgrade and rehabilitate that terminal And Council graciously approved our memo for the upgrade and rehabilitation of that terminal. And it is awarded for the cost at the cost of 2,442,418,004 naira. We also brought a prayer for the provision of command and control center at various regional airports across the country. And those airports are Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, Enugu airports and headquarters. And these command and control centers across all of these airports is to meet the requirements of ICAO, the very modern requirements of ICAO that every airport you have a command and control center. And that has been awarded at the cost of 2 billion, collectively all of them, 2,924,907,269 naira 81 kobo. These two were graciously approved. The other one that was approved was for the contract for the procurement of critical navigational aids spare parts. We had a problem whereby most of the spare parts used for navigational aids, some of them, when they go obsolete or they go bad, we'll have to go through the process of having to get across to the original equipment manufacturers, the OEMs, to try and get in these equipments. And sometimes they take months for them to come in. And within that time, we'll find our air traffic controllers struggling to ensure that they keep our airspace safe. So we have a program where some of the very, very equipments or parts of those equipments that are like the ones they are like, you know, when you are servicing a vehicle, those parts that you use all the time and you replace all the time. We brought a proposal to have the spare parts with us so that it will be very easy for us to replace some of those spare parts when any of these equipments need them. And the council graciously approved that memo also. And most of those equipments are coming from, of course, we all know the giants, equipment manufacturing giants, Indra in Norway, and they're coming at the sum of $654,000 US plus another 201 million naira, 411,364 naira. That is, those are the two major prayers, memos that were approved today for aviation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for his comments. I will also bring in the Honorable Minister of Industry.
Council, before adjournment, entertained an acknowledgement from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment through me, the Minister of State, responsible for industry, an acknowledgement of two recent very profound pronouncements. One at the last Federal Executive Council by Mr. President on the Renewed Hope Agenda and Nigeria First policy, and the other some weeks back by the National Economic Council requiring the setting up of a CTG board, cotton, textiles, and garment. Under the Nigerian First policy, the ministry's acknowledgement was about the fact that the promotion of made in Nigeria goods and services, is one of the key mandates, of industry. So the acknowledgement was to thank Mr. President, because it was a plus for industry. nothing kills a country's industrial development and progress as much as the lack of patronage for made in Nigeria goods. You know, in a tour of some industries, I mean, it's been discovered how some industrialists manufacture goods, they are not sold, they are not bought because of the unquenchable thirst for foreign-made goods. The appreciation, for example, that although in the past we've had Executive Orders 3 and 5, that this policy pronouncement by Mr. President last week, widely acclaimed by the Nigerian public, the public is also waiting to see that it's implemented. You know, so having to set up, you know, the proper framework for that policy implementation was highlighted. And the fact that the contribution in terms of economic value of implementing this policy is upwards of about 3 trillion, you know, naira annually. It's, you know, it's going to contribute to about 20% growth in the manufacturing sector in the next 3 years, contribute about 500,000 jobs in the short term, and lead to a reduction in about 30% of unnecessary foreign imports. You know, so all of these, you know, came in for mention. And then on that CTG, like I said, NEC had actually recommended for the setting up of the board. The cotton, textile, and garment sector is so important. In the early 70s, it was contributing, you know, competing with government in terms of the employment of labor and all of that. I mean, that seems to have been lost. I mean, the president directed that the ministry should collaborate with the Ministry of Agri, especially in terms of cotton, because after the production of cotton, textiles and garment become industry matters. And I think that, you know, what is important is that in continuation of the president's demonstration of leadership and courageous leadership is leading from the front, and hopefully the proper implementation of these pronouncements will have a very profound effect in terms of the growth of Nigerian industry and manufacturing sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Before I round up and open it up, I don't know whether it is fair that I have only 2 of my colleagues here. Others have gone, whether it is still expedient to take any question. But let me say that there are some additional decisions taken at the Federal Executive Council that also we need to bring to your attention. Council, upon the approval of the President and Council, has also directed the Bureau for Public Procurement to communicate the new threshold on procurement of goods and services. You will agree with me that the threshold has been there for a very long time, and this is also contributing to the number of memos that come to the Federal Executive Council for approval. So there is a new approval. Details will be communicated by the Bureau of Public Procurement. This will, you know, notify MDAs on the new threshold for projects, goods, and services. Second, Council has also taken note of the increased collaboration that government is desirous of doing with the private sector, and in that direction has directed all MDAs, especially the Ministry of Works and others that deal with critical infrastructure, to collaborate more with the private sector in terms of infrastructure development. What I'm trying to say is that government is saying that there is the need, increasing need for people in the private sector to participate actively in our economic growth here as a nation, and therefore wherever there are private sector players that can participate using their own funds, and we have seen an increased appetite among private sector players to come in and contribute their own quota towards the infrastructure revamp of the economy, especially in the area of roads construction. So Council has directed that there must be this increased collaboration with the private sector players so that together the economy can grow. There is also an acknowledgement, and I'm sure you have seen that in the news in the last few days, the creativity of Mr. President and his acumen is brought to the fore, where Nigeria is able to exit the $3.4 billion COVID loan fund that was given by the IMF. Of course, I saw some cynicism in some quarters whether this is actually true or not. We can report authoritatively that Nigeria has indeed exited from that debt, and what that means is that we have paid that debt fully. Of course, this was taken during the COVID time before the coming of this administration. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his usual way, is seeing government as a continuum, and therefore has directed that government will exit that, and government has indeed exited that debt. Now, this has gone a long way to show investors, especially investors from outside this country, about the seriousness and the capacity of government to pay off loans once they take it. It has indeed increased our rating the world over, and people are actually very happy that Nigeria is indeed much more responsible in terms of meeting its debt obligation. Council also noted that, and the president has really shown commitment for Nigeria to continue to be disciplined in terms of its borrowing for our national development. I think these are some of these. There's also a conversation, a discussion around some vendors, scrap metal vendors or miners or whatever you call them. We have seen an increased activity among people who, unscrupulously go to steal some of these government assets on the road, by the bridges, and critical metals that people just go and take and then go and sell. The federal government is already mulling the possibility of criminalizing this. Of course, we already have some of these laws in existence, but we are looking at them in depth, and the Attorney General of the Federation has been directed to look at that. There's an increased activity, that government has noted, where people go, especially in the cover of the night, remove some of these government assets, iron metals and scraps, and then go to sell them to other individuals who in turn now recycle them and bring them back to the market. There's an increased activity that government has noted along that direction, and therefore government feels very much concerned and is taking a closer look at how this can be mitigated going forward. Like I said, the Federal Executive Council has actually, the sixth one ended today, but in its bid to ensure that all the memos that should be looked at are cleared expeditiously, the President has, or the Council has all taken a decision that this Wednesday, in 2 days' time, another Federal Executive Council meeting will hold. The idea is to accelerate the pace of decision-making so that especially those areas that require urgent attention due to rainy season or other exigencies are immediately looked at. I think on the whole, this is a summary of all that we have had today. Unfortunately, you don't have the benefit of having the Q&A as we normally do. I want to urge you that if there are questions, we can keep them when we meet again on Wednesday. These questions can then be asked. Thank you for not asking so much and not taking much of your time. We appreciate, and we want to thank you most sincerely for being there all the time, but most importantly for also reporting honestly, responsibly, and patriotically in the interest of our nation. Thank you very much. So, yeah.